Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Ashtaprayasva Bhagreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Naishtiki Shrudmatam Svakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Vayantosvaya Bhadrani Vidunoti Sutsatam Srimad Bhagawatam, Canto 3, Chapter 8, Text 3, 4 and 5. We'll chant 3. Asinam Purvyam Bhagavantam Adyam Sankarshanam Devam Akunthasattvam Vivitsavas Tattvam Ataha Parasya Kumaramukhya Munayo Anvaprichan Asinamurvyam Bhagavantamavyam Sankarshanam Devam Akunthasattvam Vivitsavastattvam Mata Parasya Kumaramukhya Munayo Anvaprichan Asinam Urvyam Bhagavantamadyam Sankarshanam Devam Akunthasattvam Vivitsavastattvam Mata Parasya Kumaramukhya Munayo Anvaprichan Asinam Urvyam Bhagavantamadyam Sankarshanam Devam Akunthasattvam Vivitsavastattvam Mata Parasya Kumaramukhya Munayo Anvaprichan
Asinamurvyam Bhagavantamadyam Sankarshanam Deva Akunthasattvam Vivitsavastattvam Mata Parasya Kumaramukhya Munayo Anvaprichan
Asinamurvyam Bhagavantamadyam
Sankarshanam Devam Akunthasattvam
Vivitsavastattvam Mata Parasya Kumaramukhya Munayo Anvaprichan
Asinamurvyam Bhagavantamadyam
Sankarshanam Devam Akunthasattvam
Vivitsavastattvam Mata Parasya
Muryam Bhagavantamadhyam
Asinamuryam Bhagavatam
Sankarshanam Devamatkunta Satam
Shankarshanam Devamatkunta Satam
Vividsavastatmamata Parasya
Vividsavastatmamata Parasya
Kumaramukya Munayo Prapushtam
Kumaramukyamunayo Praksham.
Word to word meaning, asinam,
Asinam
seated,
seated
uvyam,
Uryam
the bottom of the universe,
in the bottom of the universe
Bhagavantam,
Bhagavatam
unto the Lord,
unto the Lord
Adyam,
Adyam
the original,
the original
Sankarshanam,
Shankarshanam
Sankarshan,
Shankarshanam
Devam,
Devam
the personality of Godhead,
the personality of Godhead
Akuntasattvam,
Akuntasattvam
undeterred knowledge,
undeterred knowledge
Vividsavaha,
Vividsavaha
being inquisitive to know,
being inquisitive to know
Tattvam ataha,
Bhagavata
truth like this,
truth like this
Parasya,
Parasya
regarding the Supreme Personality of Godhead,
regarding the Supreme Personality of Godhead
Kumara,
Kumara
the voicing,
the voicing
Mukhyaha,
Mukyaha
headed by,
headed by
Munayaha,
Munayaha
great sages,
great sages
Anvaprichan,
Anvaprichan
inquired like this.
inquired like this.
Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Some time ago, being inquisitive to know, Sanat Kumar, the chief of the boy saints, accompanied by other great sages, inquired exactly like you about the truth regarding Vasudeva, the Supreme, Vasudeva, the Supreme. Long sentence. Inquire exactly like you about the truths regarding Vasudeva, the Supreme, from Lord Sankarshana, who is seated at the bottom of the universe. Translation responsibly, please. Some time ago, being inquisitive to know, Sanat Kumar,
Sanat Kumar,
the chief of the boy saints,
the chief of the boy saints,
accompanied by other great sages,
accompanied by other great sages,
inquired exactly like you about the truths
about the truth
regarding Vasudeva,
regarding Vasudeva,
the Supreme,
the Supreme,
from Lord Sankarshana,
from Lord Shankarshan,
who is seated
who is seated
at the bottom of the universe.
at the bottom of the universe.
This is in clarification of the statement that the Lord spoke directly on the Srimad Bhagawatam. When and unto whom the Bhagavatam was spoken is explained herewith. Questions similar to those put forward by Vidura were asked by great sages like Sanat Kumar and Lord Sankarshan. The plenary expansion of the Supreme Lord Vasudeva answered them. What happened to internet? I need text 4, so can anybody lend a book or something? Text 4. Swam eva dishyam bahumanantam yad vasudeva vidam amananti pratyagritaksham bhuja dosham ishad unmilayantam Vibhuddhodayaya. At that time, Lord Sankarshan was meditating upon his Supreme Lord, whom the learned esteem as Lord Vasudev. But for the sake of the advancement of the great learned sages, he slightly opened his lotus eyes and began to speak.
Right, bottom right.
Sorry, I'm not used to the iPads. Oh, yeah, okay. Padmam yad archanti adiraja kanya sapremanana balibhivara varakha. The sages came from the highest planets down to the lower region to the water of the Ganges, and therefore the hair on their heads was wet. They touched the lotus feet of the Lord, which are worshipped with various paraphernalia by the daughters of the serpent king when they desire good husbands. The Ganges water flows directly from the lotus feet of Vishnu, and its course runs from the highest planet of the universe down to the lowest. The sages came down from Satyaloka by taking advantage of the flowing water, a process of transportation made possible by the power of mystic yoga. If a river flows thousands and thousands of miles, a perfect yogi can at once transport himself from one place to another simply by dipping in its water. The Ganges is the only celestial river which flows throughout the universe, and great sages travel all over the universe via this sacred river. The statement that their hair was wet indicates that it was directly moistened by the water originating from the lotus feet of Vishnu. Whoever touches the water of the Ganges to his head surely touches the lotus feet of the Lord directly and can become free from effects of sinful acts. If after taking a bath in the Ganges or being washed of all sins, a man guards himself against committing further sinful acts, then certainly he is delivered. But if he again takes up sinful activities, his bath in the Ganges is as good as that of the elephant, who nicely takes his bath in a river but later spoils the whole thing by covering himself with dust on the land. Om Ajnanatirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitamena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamanyam Dadati Swapadantikam. Mukam Karoti Vacharam Pangulangayate Guru Yatkipatamaham Vande Shri Gurum Dinatarinam. He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesh Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namaskute Taptakanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishwahan Sute Devi Pranami Namipriye Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Radha Shivasadi Gauranga Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Vachakalpatarubhyashchikripa samyukhyateva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Asinam uryam bhagavatam adyam sankarshanam daivam akunta sattvam vividsavat sattva mahaparasya kumara mukhya munayo anupachan. Some time ago, being inquisitive to know Sanat Kumar, the chief of the boy saints, Almost sounds like Boy Scouts. In that sense, yes, he is chief of the boy saints, accompanied by other great sages, inquired exactly like you about the truth regarding Vasudeva, the Supreme, from Lord Sankarshan, who is seated at the bottom of the universe. So Maitreya Muni is speaking to Vidura. And kind of very interesting because we're almost in the third canto, chapter 8, text 3. And in yesterday's verse, Vidura said that he is just starting the narration of Srimad Bhagawatam. Kind of interesting. And thankful to Navadwip Mataji, she took us kind of a tour on the Srimad Bhagawatam, the entire Srimad Bhagawatam, although short. So similarly, like it says here, Sankarshan, Sankarshan has so many hoods, Anantasesh, and he's glorifying the Supreme Lord day in and day out, every second, with so many hundreds and thousands of mouths, but still he finds himself incapable of glorifying the Lord fully. And this is very interesting how that is like. There's so many different examples given, but I'm not going to that and discuss. And we see here that Vidura and Maitreya, this very important dialogue happening, and they both are eager to hear Katyantashtama Nityam Tushyantisha Ramantisha, that this happiness comes from hearing the glorious Uttama Shloka Vartaye. Ayurharati Vaipumsaha Udayan Astan Chayanaso Tasyate Kshananita Uttama Shloka Vartaye, that one who hears the Vartaye or the Katha or the pastimes of the Supreme Lord, for them this rising Udayan and Astam, that rising and the setting of the sun does not affect the lifespan of such persons. Right? All of us, we are affected by the rising and setting of the sun. In what way? And every day it's taking away our life. Right? But it says that those who are hearing the Uttama Shloka Vate, the Katha of the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, this rule does not apply. And of course the questions have to be very relevant. These questions of the disciples to the Guru has to be relevant questions, not just for the sake of argument. Sometimes people, they ask the questions either for the sake of argument or just for wasting the time of the speaker and the audience. In that respect is an interesting conversation I recently heard. At one point, Srila Prabhupada was giving a talk, and after the lecture, actually Prabhupada was mentioning in the lecture that Guru knows everything. Guru is all pervading, in that sense, just like we were hearing before. Acharya Mam Vijaya, that Guru knows everything in that sense. So someone in the audience, they asked the question that, okay, if Guru knows everything, can he tell me how many windows are there in this Empire State Building? So what is this question? It's such an absurd question. And what did Prabhupada answer? Anybody else? Yeah.
So something, as many windows as there is in Empire State Building?
Say
As
again.
many windows as there in Empire State Building? He answers that with a question.
Yeah, it's an absurd question, but Prabhupada answered with a question. He said, can you count the drops of water in a mirage? Because mirage is an illusion, first of all. And even if you count the drops of water in that mirage, what good is that? Right? It's illusion. And what question is that? It's such an absurd question, and it's just wasting the time of one who's asking the question and the time of one who the question is being asked. So Prabhupada just dismissed that question. Similarly, we see here that actually the questions asked should be relevant. Right? And then in the next verse, we can see that it says at that time Lord Sankarshan was meditating. So now Vidura is kind of doing the flashback, and he's coming to this point of Sanat Kumar or the Kumaras. At that time Lord Sankarshan was meditating upon his Supreme Lord. And who's this Supreme Lord? Krishna, whom the learned esteem as Lord Vasudeva. But for the sake of the advancement of the great learned sages, he slightly opened his lotus-like eyes and began to speak. And in the 5th verse it says, the sages came from the highest planets down to the lower region to the water of the Ganges. And it's interesting, because it says, if a river flows thousands and thousands of miles, Prabhupada says in the purport, a perfect yogi can at once transport himself from one place to another simply by dipping in its water. And I think in one of the talk, Prabhupada mentions that how the yogis who come to the Kumbh Mela, that they are so advanced, right? They can go dip in the water in Haridwar, which is almost north of India, and they can appear in Ganga in Mayapur, which is like hundreds or even probably thousands of miles. If you see the track of Ganga, actually, at one point I was going on Google Maps and I was trying to see how, all the time I was running out of the page on the screen because you just go track the river by the Google Maps, the Google Earth actually. And it keeps going on and on from all the way from north, from the Himalayas. It comes to all the Varanasi and down all the way to Delhi, through the Taj Mahal and down even further to Mayapur, all the way to the west. So amazing. So the yogis, they can actually do this by their yogic power. And Prabhupada says that the Ganges is the only celestial river which flows throughout the universe. And great sages travel all over the universe via the sacred river. The statement that their hair was wet indicates that it was directly moistened by the water originating from the lotus feet of Vishnu. So here it says that the sages, they came through that flow of Ganges starting from the toe of Lord Vishnu. Just like it says, what is that verse in Bhagavad Gita? Yajnat, and what is that, the rains, because of the yajna, the rains come. Very beautiful verse, forgetting the Sanskrit, but it says that the rains, and it says also in the one place in Bhagavatam that when it rains, also living entities, they come through the rains, and then they enter the crops, and when the crops are eaten by the human beings, and that's how they get transported. And whoever touches the water of the Ganges to his head surely touches the lotus feet of the Lord directly and can become free from all effects of sins. It's a very interesting statement. It says that whoever touches the water of the Ganges to his head, and I remember if anybody went to Juhu temple, been to the Juhu temple in Mumbai, India, and it's very near to the Juhu beach. And most devotees, we go morning walk, japa walk on the beach because it's only like not even 5 minutes walking from the temple to the beach. Just walk and you're right on the beach. So after the Mangalarati, we go morning walk. Prabhupada used to do that too. Morning walk on the Juhu beach, and there's a lot of conversations famous, just like he used to do on the Venice beach. So we devotees, we always go there, but we just go chant, go all the way, maybe another 15-20 minutes towards the east actually, and then come back. And by the time you're back, you're completed with your 16 rounds, and you're ready for the darshanarati. When you come, the darshanarati just starts. And one time actually me and some of my godbrother, we were with my Guru Maharaj, Sripad Maharaj, or Bhakti Damodar Swami Maharaj. And Maharaj wanted to go walk on the beach, so we went after the Mangalarati. And Maharaj straight walked to the water. Usually, normally we wouldn't even go near the water because it's not like here, clean water. just by looking at the water, the color of the water, you can know what kind of water that is. Very kind of dirty water. So Maharaj went to the water and he took some water from the beach and from the ocean and he sprinkled on his head and he said, Gange cha yamune chaiva Godavari Saraswati. And we were all confused and thought, oh, what is Maharaj doing? And then he explained that actually all the waters, the water body, their representation, anywhere you go in the universe, they are a representation of Mother Ganga, right? Because ultimately all the rivers, they come and merge into the ocean. So in that sense, this ocean also, although it may seem dirty, but it's still the Ganges water. And even if you go to the actual Ganga, all the way in the north in Rishikesh, not so much in Rishikesh, if you come more down, it becomes a little polluted. Actually, if you come down even more towards Varanasi, Varanasi is famous for all these burning hearts. So they burn the bodies, the dead bodies, and they throw all the ashes, or they get washed away there. So the river kind of becomes a little contaminated. Seems to be, but when they did the test, the lab test of the water, and very surprisingly, they found that the water was still clean and pure. I mean, if you see the dead body floating in the river, you think you would want to drink the water from the river, right? But amazingly, because of the purity, it comes directly from the lotus feet of the Lord. Ganges has that potency, and so much so that it can deliver us from all our sinful acts. And that's what it says here. And it's kind of surprising that there's also one saying in India that Ganga ke kinare rehne wale Ganga ka mahatma nahi jante. Means those who are staying at the banks of Ganges, right? They're living there permanently. They don't know the value of the river Ganga. As for them, it's just a normal affair, just like we are here in Hawaii. Right? We are here and we seldom go to the beach. Of course, there are some who go without fail, just like a rat. You have a Kartik rat. You go. I was surprised the other day we went. Maybe it was around like 9:30 to over. Yeah, this Saturday we thought, the Labor Day weekend will be very crowded, so better we go early in the morning. Just my family. And we were surprised we couldn't find parking at 9 o'clock in the morning, 9:30 actually. And then it struck to me that actually all these surfers, they are there early morning, like maybe 5 o'clock something. They catch the waves, because when we came back around 10:30, there were so many open spots. And I could see that all these surfers, they were coming back and going back home because their day is done, whatever they did in the ocean. So it's like regular, just like a rat, Kartik rat. You go without fail, right, early in the morning. They might not come for Mangalarti, but they will not miss that. So, some people, they do that and some seldom go. And we don't realize the importance of the place when we just take it for granted, right? And interestingly, we are missing one friend of ours, and he's been here so many years in Hawaii, and he sometimes accompanies us to the beach, and he would never ever swim. And I asked him the question, and why you don't want to swim? There are all these people you see, the tourists, they're spending hundreds and thousands of dollars to come here, swim in the ocean, and you have the opportunity, but you don't swim here. Why? And very funny answer. Panchatattva Krishna. I don't want to name him, but he's always there with his jokes in the class, so you will know who I'm talking about. So he said, the reason he gave, he said, oh, I don't swim because the fish, they pee and poop in the water. I said, are you serious? He said, yes. Okay, and I didn't argue any further. I said, I give up. So here it says that, the importance of the river Ganges. And it says just by touching the water of the river, one can get purified. And I had a very interesting experience when we were visiting. If you go to Kashi, anyone been to Kashi, Bodh Gaya? It's a very famous spot in India. People, whenever they mention about going to Swargalok, they will say, especially when you're old and retired, they will say, oh, you should go to Kashi. because that's where they perform all these ritualistic activities to tarpan or offer oblations to your forefathers. And so there is this river, I forget the name of the river. An interesting river, it's actually underground. It's called Gupta Ganga or something. Gupta means hidden. And you just see like a little bit water on the top, but if you dig in, there's a lot of water underground the river. So the pujaris before the ceremony, they will tell you to go take a bath or sprinkle the water from the river before you start. And they say that once you do that, you are purified from all your sins, and make sure that you don't commit more sins. Right? So that's what it mentions here. Prabhupada says in the end of the purport, he says that just like in case of Jagai Madai, we saw, right? Lord Nityananda came and saved them, but then what he said? Sin no more. Right? So here the same principle, he says, but if he again takes up sinful activities, his bath in the Ganges is as good as that of the elephant. And there's a very beautiful verse in the 6th canto. I will not go into the details because that will be like another class. But because Prabhupada mentions here, it says that elephant, what does the elephant do? The elephant do, he takes bath in a river, but later spoils the whole thing by covering himself with dust on the land. So as soon as the elephant comes out of the water, what does he do? He sprinkles the dust on it. So that bathing is of no good. So the 6th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, the backdrop of it is when Parikshit Maharaj hears the description of all these hellish planets, the whole 5th canto, or the end of the 5th canto, and Parikshit Maharaj is kind of worried, and he says that, he is very merciful or compassionate towards all the living entities, and he's asking the question that all these living entities, they are going to suffer in this, all these different hellish planets. So what is the way out? And then systematically, Srila Goswami is giving the answer. And one of the answer, or one of the ways he gives is, he says, prayashchita. And he says, do atonement of whatever papa or whatever sinful acts we do in this lifetime, we should do atonement, right? But then in this verse, I think 6th chapter, the internet not working, but I think the verse says something like this. Kvachit charati tat. Do you know this verse? Kvachit charati tat punah. Kvachit charati prayashchita atam manye patam manye kunjara shochava. That this process of atonement, just like the Christians, they do the, what is that called? Every Saturday they go to the church. Huh? Confession. So that's the same, they're going and confessing, I did this sin, so please absolve me of this sin. But then when again the Sunday comes, they start again sinning. So this is just like the Kunjara Snana, the bathing of the elephant. Prayashchita, the atonement is Mande Kunjara Shocha. That's what. So he is kind of, Parikshit Maharaj is kind of rejecting this, solution put forward by Shukadeva Goswami, that it's just like a bathing of an elephant. What is the use of this atonement? And then we come later to this very beautiful verse. Kechit kevalaya bhaktya vasudeva parayana agham dhunvanti karsnena niharam iva bhaskara. It's a very beautiful verse. And that itself can be another class, but in short, what it means is that one who is Kechit kevalaya bhaktya just takes up this process of bhakti or devotional service. Vasudeva, and to Vasudeva, then what happens? Agham dhunvanti karsnena, and he gives an example, just like if anybody being to Vrindavan in Kartik, at the end of the Kartik, you see on the street, it's so much of fog. I think Mataji has experienced, right? I can't even see Mataji sitting there. Right? Or if you're on the street, you can bump into each other, or people get into accidents also in the highway. But then what happens, as soon as the Agham dhunvanti karsnena, Niharam eva bhaskara. So bhaskara, just when the rays of the sun they hit this fog, the fog starts dissipating. The sun has not even come up fully, but just by the rays of the sun. So just by even if one thinks of performing devotional service, then this cloud of whatever the sinful activities they have done starts lifting away. So that's what that verse means. And so Srila Prabhupada is actually indirectly pointing out towards that verse, giving this example of the bathing of the elephant. So that's the end of the purport and end of the time, and I'll end the class. So any questions, quick questions or comments, or any enlightenments or more thoughts on this verses?
So I'm just kind of curious, how is it that Sankarshan, he's a snake with 1,000 heads, but he also has this beautiful form, kind of like Krishna?
Who is Sankarshan? Lord Sankarshan.
Yeah, Lord Sankarshan.
Yes, Sankarshan is Balaram, so I mean the Lord can have so many forms also. The Lord's pure Buddhist, what is that? I'm forgetting, it's like certain percentages, the Bhagavan aspect. So Krishna has 100%, and then next is Balaram, he has I think 90% or something, and so on and so forth. So yes, why not? Balaram can come in different incarnations too.
Just like
Of course,
Mahavishnu is at the bottom of the universe.
Yeah, of course, the original Avatari, the title of Avatari, or one who incarnates, is for Krishna, reserved for Krishna. But yeah, please.
Yeah, Balaram, he's like the first expansion, but he's also like the greatest devotee of Krishna. He's like Krishna's biggest fan,
Right.
other than Radharani. But he's always providing Krishna whatever he needs. And so Shankar Shan, he provides this incredible bed to lay
He's
on.
always ready to serve Krishna, and anything left, any service left, that's a Sesha. Whatever is left, he's always ready to do. Right? Even we have this Mridanga, Kartal, and he's expanding and offering service in the Sankirtan movement too in this way. Even the paraphernalia for the Lord, it's all expansion of Krishna.
Yeah.
I mean, Sankarshan or Ananta Sesh or Balaram. Right?
So he's got a couple different forms, like he's like a guru or whatever, and
Yeah, he's also
he's also the bed of Lord Vishnu.
Yes. Yeah, he can manifest in different avatars or incarnations. Just to serve the Lord, not to proclaim himself as a supreme, but for the service of the Lord. Alright, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai,